I got the go-ahead from my mother to share her one and only Ouija board story experience with the users of this site. It's not a terrifying or huge event, though I do think it's worth posting. Sorry it's a bit short, but here it is. When my mother was around 15 or 16, she went over a friend's house to hang out. Once she got there, she found out that they were planning on playing with a Ouija board. Being sensitive to those sort of things, she decided to sit out of the game and not get involved. Shortly after the group started, someone asked, "What do you want?" From where my mother stood, she saw the planchette begin to move. It slowly spelled out, YOURFRIEND. The group didn't know what it meant by this, so they asked, "Who do you want?" The planchette moved again, this time spelling out URSULA. My mother's first name. Not many people knew this because she usually just went by her nickname Tula. It was a bit odd to hear that her peers were using her real name. Not thinking it was something otherworldly, she honestly thought that they were teasing her. She walked over to the board without touching anything and smugly told her friend who was playing to ask, "What am I getting my boyfriend for Valentine's Day?" She hadn't shared this answer to anyone, let alone anybody in the room. She thought that it would put a stop to their kidding and began to walk away when suddenly the planchette started to move. It moved from letter to letter, spelling out ROSES. Thinking it was a generic answer, she told them to ask how many, and it spelled out SIX. That was the correct answer. She was going to get her boyfriend one rose for every month they had been dating. This scared her so badly that she left right then and there and never went back to that house. I've tried to post this twice now. All I need to know is, what is this thing that's messing with my neighbors? I was the first one to see it. It looks exactly like Zach. This happened months ago when I was walking up the driveway. I looked into the kitchen window. I could have sworn that he was leaning over the counter in a t-shirt facing the bathroom. I knew it was Zach because he's the only 6'5" guy in the house that's tan and dark-haired. There was something off when I looked inside though, and it was unexplainable. Instead of walking through the kitchen to get out of the rain, I went up the balcony stairs and into his room. When I saw him, he was wearing a dress shirt and black jeans, looking like the complete opposite of our friend who was staying the night with him. It freaked me out, and I questioned both of the guys, assuming that they were messing with me. I knew, though, that they were telling the truth, and was just hoping that I didn't see what I did. Last night, he came back. Zach had fallen asleep early, and his roommate couldn't sleep, so he went outside. When he came back inside, he saw Zach standing over Zach. There was sleeping Zach, and there was another Zach leaning over him in a striped shirt. He stayed there for hours whispering to the sleeping Zach. This caused Zach to say, "Mommy," multiple times. Eventually, Chris messaged him telling him about the guy standing over him and the guy that I saw. He said that it felt evil and that Zach needed to put on his protection necklaces. Zach only got the message describing what he saw. And when the sun came up with the morning, he got another part. After Chris sent the message, the figure ran out of the room and went outside. This allowed Chris to sleep, but throughout the night, it kept coming back and waking up Zach. All he could see was its face. It had black, featureless face with white lips. And it told him to join them. We all know their house is haunted by a few ghosts, but we're not sure if this is a ghost of a demonic entity. If someone can tell us any possible information about it, that would be a great help. Thank you so much. This story took place about 12 years ago. I was 14 and living in a townhouse on the north end of Colorado Springs with both my older brother and my grandmother. Our home was right on the edge of a park called Palmer Park. It was a huge park that really looks more like the woods. People go there to hike, mountain bike, etc. I would often go there after school with friends to hang out before going home. There was a pavilion not far from the entrance of the park that we used to sit and talk. One day, myself and two friends of mine were at the pavilion doing the usual when we realized that it had gotten dark and that I had to go home. So I started my short trip home alone, leaving my two buddies behind me. Halfway home, I noticed what looked like a figure of a man standing amongst the trees. At first, I thought that it might have been my brother coming to let me know how much trouble I was in, but the closer I got, the more that I could see that it wasn't my brother at all. I even spoke, "Hello," to the person as I passed by, but he didn't even make a sound. I could clearly see whatever it was watching me. I actually saw his body shift as I passed. That's when I got scared and started running. I ran until I got home, and when I did, I quickly shut the sliding glass door, locked it, and looked outside towards the park as I caught my breath. Now, I know that some people might say that it was just some guy, or a tree, or that maybe I was imagining the whole thing, but I wasn't. I saw a figure of a man standing there watching me. It was weird because I remember that I was only a few feet away and I could not see his face. And the body looked more like a shadow of a body instead of the real thing. Finally, 5 minutes or so after I made it home, I saw both of my friends walking along the parking lot. As they walked past my door, I opened it and asked if they'd seen anyone in the park as they walked out. They both said no. I will never forget that night. Although I'm not exactly sure if it was a ghost or not, I cannot come up with any explanation as to what happened. The time was too close. And if what I saw would have went deeper into the park, my friends would have seen it on their way out. If it came into the complex, I would have seen it coming towards me. Anyone have any speculations? Please, I would love to hear them. My girlfriends and I are both chefs in our early 30s. We have a 9-month-old daughter. My girlfriend was a skeptic, but I have always been a believer in the paranormal. I wanted to experience my own and always told myself I wouldn't be afraid if I saw a ghost. I am a Denver native, and the only place I ever heard about was the Stanley Hotel. Recently, my girlfriend found out her old pal moved to Evergreen. We went to visit and noticed her house was very old and made almost completely of quartz. We casually asked about the construction. She told us how the building is part of the homestead of the Brook Forest Inn across the street. We looked and noticed it was also founded on quartz. She added the inn is haunted, offering to get us a room some night if we were interested. We jumped at the opportunity. When we first arrived, the ambiance of the inn was incredible. A very strong sense of history and majesty is apparent immediately. We were excited to have a tour, the highlights of which were the basement and the Degoya room. Legends of children dying in this inn are common. The original owner's son in this room. We stayed in the ambassador suite where the forbidden lover strangled his lover and then hung himself out of guilt for killing her. He was Carl, a stable boy. She was a maid named Jessica. Both of us kept getting an eerie feeling of being watched, our daughter staring at corners and smiling at something over our shoulders. Both uncharacteristic of her. I took digital photos of all the rooms and basement and dining hall. Many orbs were captured. I got an overwhelming feeling of a chill pass over me. Once asleep, I woke up to find myself sweating bullets. The room was comfortable, maybe even a bit chilly when I laid down. My girl woke up and she said that she was also hot. She turned on the fan and we both went back to sleep. I was awakened by a bang of the double door in our room. I got spooked by this because we were the only people in the building. The staff had all gone and locked up 3 or 4 hours ago. I laid in bed staring at the wall near my side of the bed and tried to talk myself back to sleep. But I heard voices, giggles, heavy footsteps, and the bathroom door creaking loudly over and over. I made sure to close all windows in our room, so after an hour or so, I woke my girl and asked if she heard anything strange. Of course, she said no, it's an old hotel, go back to sleep. But the next day, she told me she heard things too. After 45 minutes of trying to get to sleep, my daughter woke up screaming, which she has only done once before. We brought her to bed, and 10 minutes after, I got an intense feeling of dread. I was being lured to turn over and look at the bathroom door. I talked myself into it and turned over. Staring into the dark, I saw nothing at first. And then above the shower curtain, I saw a weird emerald light. It was bright, but not the way a light bulb is. It didn't illuminate the bathroom at all. It was as if it was directed at me somehow. I wanted to move and get up, to take a picture, but I couldn't get up the nerve. I watched it for what seemed like 10 minutes, and then it disappeared. I got up and turned on the light and found nothing to explain the strange green glow. I look forward to staying there again, and with more equipment and more courage. When I was 12, which was last year, I went to work with my mom. She worked at Boulder County Jail until I moved. Now, my mom was a nurse at this jail and worked nights, so I went to work with her. Being the adventurous type that I am, I went wandering off. I explored everywhere. I went through everything I could find. It was cool. That night at exactly 12 midnight, I was looking through a little window on the door that leads to the kitchen in the jail. So, as I was looking in there, the big metal spoon to one of the pots started turning. Now, that being creepy enough, the figure of a man started to appear. Or at least, the outline of him did. From what I can see, he looked like he was maybe in his late 30s or early 40s, and was a little bit plump. As I watched this figure turn the spoon to the pot, he looked at me straight in the eye, and then he kind of faded away. I stood peering through that window for another second or two to see if he was going to come back. He never did. A few hours later, at about 2 a.m., I went back to the kitchen to see if he was there again. And he was. But this time there was another figure in the kitchen with him. This one looked like he was about my age. I stood there amazed for a few minutes. Then both of the figures looked at me, smiled, did what looked like a wave goodbye, and faded. I never saw them again. A few nights after going to work with my mom, I asked her if any of the cooks that worked at the jail had died. She told me this really long story about how he had brought his son to work one day and they both mysteriously died at the jail. She told me the night that I went to the jail with her was the 5-year anniversary of the death of the cook and his son. I never forgot that night, and I don't think I ever will. I hope you ghouls enjoyed those 5 creepy, scary, ghosty stories from Colorado. Honestly, there's not that many that I could find. Are you guys just lucky that you don't have that much spirit activity? I mean, if there's not that many spirits in Colorado, I know where I'm moving. But yeah, I know, I realize now after editing and whatnot that this is really short. Like, shorter than most of my other videos. And I apologize, I didn't notice they were that short. But I am kind of like on a time budget type thing. You know, I'm spring cleaning. My house is, it's not dirty, but it needs some sprucing. You know what I mean? I need to spruce it up a bit. So yeah, let's see. Secret word of the day will be Kleenex. Why? Because it's spring and I'm getting allergies and I have literally like 6 boxes of tissue stocked up ready for the allergy season. So Kleenex. And don't forget, my last video will be on the top left, my next video will be on the bottom left. All my social medias are on the screen as well as in the description below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.